Hi everybody, this is Jason from Con+3 and I'm here today with Alan from Gallant Games, one of our new sponsors. Thanks very much for coming on board this year, Alan.
More than happy to be here.
Brilliant. So we're going to focus on basically on the prize that you're giving away as a new sponsor.
Sure.
So a couple of them, Tiny Dungeons and Tiny Frontiers, use your Tiny D6 engine, which you call a minimalist system. So,
Yes.
so tell us a bit about how the Tiny D6 system works.
Yeah, so it's a really straightforward, easy to teach and easy to understand system. The base mechanic is you roll two six-sided dice. If either dice shows a five or a six, you've done the thing. That's it. It's that easy. If you have advantage, which you get from traits, abilities, magic, or magic items, or really good gear, you get three dice. If you have disadvantage, which is some sort of hindrance, bad weather, whatever would be slowing you down, you have disadvantage, you roll one dice. That's it. As long as any of those dice when you roll show a five or six, you did the thing. That's it. You just need one dice. So
Mm.
that easy.
Brilliant. So nothing to do with advantage and disadvantage from that other system that I won't mention.
No, I mean that mechanic's been in a lot of other games under other names anyway, so
Sure.
no.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was having a quick look at the character sheet as well for Tiny Dungeon, because one thing that with sort of spell casting in fantasy systems, it can get quite sort of crunchy sometimes, and it's not always my personal cup of tea, but I noticed that yours is nice and streamlined to kind of go with Tiny D6. But also you distinctively lay out several different types of sort of stereotypical casters. So you've got your wizard, you've got your druid, but they've got their own sort of little house of rules. They're in that little pocket of what they need to do.
The character sheet, yes, it's really straightforward. There's not a lot going into it. Every character has three traits. They pick either based on the Tiny D6 game, like an archetype or a heritage or something. And that gives them a bonus trait that gives them some kind of hit points or stress or something.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, that's it. Your character sheet can fit on a little 3x5 card. You have four traits. You have some weapons you're good with. That's it. Some hit points. And those things all tell you what you get advantage on, what you don't get advantage on, stuff like that.
Yeah. So was it your idea to just kind of have a full minimalist type game, sort of quick and easy, or was it more you wanted a minimalist system to leave room for other things like sort of stories or campaigns?
Um, I mean, I don't. I just wanted something that was really it's about how it's good for conventions and demos and teaching people who haven't role played. It's a very easy way to teach somebody how to play the game.
Sure. Yeah. And it seems like it's working. Like a lot of people I've noticed are really, really into your systems, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it seems to have caught on, so that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. The other system that you're giving away for us is Cold Shadows, which is quite different.
Yes.
Um, so espionage, and it also uses a system that it kind of derives a bit from Fate, but we'll go into that in a bit more detail in a minute. Um, with regards to, because there's quite a lot of sort of espionage and spy RPGs that have been out recently, and you've got your old sort of James Bond RPG as well. Um, what made you come up with Cold Shadow, and how did you get it to stand out from the rest of the crowd of espionage RPGs?
I didn't want action spies jumping out of planes or doing things like that. I wanted meetings in dark alleys and yelling at each other from behind desks and things like that. Um, the And then what makes it stand out is the mechanic isn't about if you do the thing or you don't do the thing. It's about who gets to control the narrative in the story. So when you're rolling, if you win the roll, you get to determine the outcome of the action. So if we were rolling in something and I won, I could say, "Hey, you shoot me," because let's say we're throwing down with guns and like we're trying to see who draws first, and we could go, "You shoot me," or if I win, I can go, "I shoot you." And then what you do is you have a wager mechanic that lets you add additional details to the scene. So when you're rolling your dice, you decide how much you want to roll, how many you want to save to wager, and you go back and forth with that.
Okay. And with things like the aspects and stuff, which is quite a larger than life thing you get a lot in kind of these sort of big, powerful hero type characters you get with Fate and House of the Blooded. Why did you choose House of the Blooded as the system to marry with Cold Shadows?
A lot of the storytelling beats are similar. They're both games about kind of tragedy and the price of failure and duty. They're in a lot of ways they're about cost, right? And the John le Carré bent of Cold Shadows is about cost. It's about the price of doing your duty, and that dovetails nicely with those mechanics, which Houses of the Blooded support sort of a larger than life kind of romantic tragedy style story, and in Blood and Honor, which is what we actually used as the baseline, they support kind of a samurai tragedy story, which again, samurai stories are very much about duty and honor and following through and the cost of that.
Yeah.
So it was a natural genre parallel in a lot of ways.
Okay, fine. And you also, I know there's a couple of little bits and bobs in there that may have been tweaked from history to kind of give a bit more drama or make the story better. But again, why have you gone for a more historically authentic setting as opposed to, say, I don't know, an alternative reality?
Because real history is interesting enough. I don't need to make stuff up to, tell good stories. And I think those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And role-playing games are a great way to get people to look at history and understand it. And I don't want to say live it per se, but pseudo experience it in a new way, right?
Yeah,
so, and we're always learning more especially about the last 100 years of espionage history. So an article came out a month, maybe 2 months ago, about how the CIA and the German intelligence division, the BND, they actually owned and were the financial controllers, owners, and product designers of the world's largest producer of code-making information.
Okay.
The CIA was selling code machines that were already broken to countries they wanted to spy on through this private company for like 40 years. Nobody knew.
Wow.
And this is real history, right? This just came out. So, we're still finding out stuff like from the 60s on, countries like Iran were using code machines that we sold them. They didn't know we had already broken because we designed them, alongside the Germans. And we were making money selling them. And the CIA was funding itself, selling them, and running this multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah. And am I right that in Cold Shadows you can kind of tweak to, whatever kind of, not time period, that's the wrong word, but any kind of sort of setting that you want, so it doesn't have to be bang on in present day or World War II, for example?
Yeah, so it's the dice, the equipment and stuff is measured in how many dice it gives you. Okay. So if I'm setting the game in the 60s, a good phone gives me no dice. A really great piece of technology gives me 2 dice. Then if I play it in the modern day, phone, no extra dice. Really great piece of technology, 2 extra dice. Like, that doesn't have to change. So you can really scale the game wherever you want. You could totally do it in alternate reality or the future, or you could easily make it like a Roman spies and the Caesarian Rome kind of time frame or anything like that.
Yeah. Have you ever had anyone kind of maybe exploit the technology factor a bit and go, oh, well, can I get some more dice to have some nukes or something?
No, the game's got a lot of guide rails around how you can tell the story.
Okay.
So that's not really a problem.
Fine.
And it's a high trust game. It assumes that if you sit down with the players, they are you're all on the same page that, our goal is to tell this kind of story, and derailing that is a bad move and it makes you a jerk. So don't do that thing.
Sure.
So the game sort of says, if you're going to play this, you got to play it with the people who are going to play the right way.
Now, as you obviously know, a lot of us are stuck at home. A lot of people in the industry are working from home as well and having to adjust accordingly, and it's affecting some people more so than others in terms of how they work. But I noticed on your blog that you came up with a nice little innovative way for creative people to not get into a bit of a lilt and do something worthwhile. With your Tiny Trove community contest that I believe the deadline has just passed. So, what is that something? Obviously, that's coming to an end. But are you looking to do sort of more recurring things like that to kind of keep people's spirits up? Because that's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's definitely a potential option. It just kind of depends. Everything is different. So where I am, they got ahead of it early and they've been pretty good. So things are slowly, like really slowly reopening right now where I am.
Okay.
So which means I'm at work, I'm at the day job, I'm doing those things that have to be done. So yeah, we'll probably do more. I don't know if we'll do another contest. They're a lot of work for me because I have to review each submission, and read it and decide and make a decision. So, but the Tiny Trove is always open. Folks can always contribute to that.
Yeah.
So even if there's not a contest, people can create and sell their own Tiny D6 stuff in the Tiny Trove as long as they follow the rules. So
cool. And presumably people can just come onto the site or access the library and give stuff a read.
Yeah, you'd have to have the Tiny book those up if you don't have them or get them from this giveaway. But yeah, once you have them and you've read them, you can just go make your own tiny product. We have templates, art, all kinds of things folks can use up there. So
brilliant, awesome. And one last question, just to round down, Alan, for the interview. Since you've coined the term Gallant Knight games, what is your favourite suit of armour, or what would your suit of armour look like if you were wearing one?
Ooh, that's a question. Nobody's ever asked me that ever. I don't know if I know how to respond to that. So I'm a big fan of late Viking Age history, that time period around 1200s. You wouldn't catch me wearing it, but I really love cataphract armor from the Byzantine Empire. I think it looks so cool. The kind of the overlapping scale mail cataphract stuff. But I mean, Gallant Knight, I'd probably have to wear some sort of kind of Gothic style full plate. Overly ornate, can't really move in it, not super useful, but it looks great.
Well, exactly. It's about looking good.
That's 90% of the battle.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Alan. It's been great. And thanks for joining us for Con+3. Thank you for your generous giveaways.
Of course. More than happy to participate and keep doing the good work.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Alan Barr from Gallant Knight Games, the producer of games such as the Tiny D6 line, the Zorro role-playing game, Cold Shadows, and other games. I want to take a moment to ask you to donate to the Butterfly Project. It's important that we remember as a community that even in the hard times, there are still those who need our help. And it'd be wonderful if you could just spare whatever you can to help donate and make somebody's life a little better today. Thanks.